himself getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on, so you're off in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani, not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haig deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
Say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the loud pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down it towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed Morton forward up ahead. He's got out of line. It's now Pike going to have a go at Werrell. Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's just like trouble. He's left on second and change. All of a sudden Miller's back in play.
On to the back end of Phil Jocelyn, so there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot have fun. Yeah, it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is enjoying himself watching. The Burger King machine's off into the grass a little bit there. Is that really bunching up now?
Coming down, does he have it? He's going to get it. Look at Johnson. He haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such chopper. He's not just second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to PRL Season 12. Once again, we are here for Tier 1. It's round 4 time, though, and we are in the Netherlands on the North Sea coast at Zandvoort, of course. Slightly remodelled in the last few years with the addition of some extra banking at turn 3 and the final corner, but we'll have to see how our drivers can meet the challenge this evening. My name is Darragh Thacker. Joining me in the commentary booth is Joshua, Griffin, Meek, JGM, and Josh. We've had an interesting opening few rounds, but the Netherlands... It's a track where we might see some DRS trains, and moves are going to have to be made effectively.
Yeah, it's a little bit different compared to the other circuits we've been at, haven't we? I mean, they've all got overtaking opportunities, but the Netherlands is, Zandvoort especially, rather than just the entire country of the Netherlands, but I'm sure it would be very difficult to overtake around the Netherlands if they keep producing drivers like Max Verstappen all over the place, but... It's certainly going to be one where they've got to try and manifest the overtakes. They're not going to be given to them on a silver platter. They won't be able to just immediately pick those up and under moves. They're going to have to be creative with the racing lines, the sort of techniques for trying to get these overtakes, especially through the likes of Tarzan. And then, of course, that new turn 3 as well. They're completely banked. It's, you know, it feels like we're going to Daytona every time we see a car go past turn 3. But there's an ample opportunity for these drivers to really try and do something a little different to get themselves in the mix here. And I, for one, very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's lots of fun, isn't it? Particularly when you watch the F2s or the F3s. They can often go 3 wide through turn 3, but we'll leave the jury out if we're going to see that this evening. It might be slightly difficult. But, I mean, in the championship picture, of course, we've had a few rounds where it's not really been clear who's on top. And I think this is going to be a championship that runs quite along right the way to the end of the season.
Yes, absolutely. Tell you what, let's switch it up and let's have a look at the standings here. You can see that Sim Racer leading the way, 77 points, with Scott Renzi back in the Haas car. Not too far off a tail. Realistically, we could potentially see all sorts of antics happening up at the front of the field, especially if we end up having anything resembling what we had last week around Portimao. For me, it's practically all up in the air, and I wouldn't feel confident even making a prediction who's going to lead after this race, let alone a championship prediction looking down the line. I mean, as well, you've got the likes of Rapid Kitch, Eric as well, which have had stellar performances and could very much find themselves in a title battle in maybe 1 or 2 races' time, if not, maybe even at the end of this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a tight championship, and I think it helps that we have those points in qualifying, of course. Traditional F1 sprint race points in qualifying, 8 for pole, all the way down to 1 for whoever qualifies in P8. And I really do think it creates a bit of an interesting dynamic, doesn't it? In terms of winning the race with fastest lap and pole will actually get you 34 points. It's a very good chunk. But even if you get pole and you crash out or whatever, you still pick up those 8 points. But it still gives you that little bit of a boost every single week. But we've got Scorenti and Rabin in 2 and 3, as we've said. Rapikic a little bit further back, but he's in a bit of no man's land at the moment. Eric, Paco, they're close together. Paco, I think, is a driver who we might expect to see move his way through the order a little bit. He had a lot of pace, particularly at the first couple of races at Barcelona and Imola, but he wasn't able to really capitalise in terms of points in the race. We'll have to see how he does.
Yes, absolutely. We know Portimao's kind of a new addition onto the Formula 1 games. Zandvoort, not as new, but still relatively new in comparison. If we're looking towards, the historic element of Formula 1, maybe he feels a little bit more comfortable towards those sort of tracks. But again, looking at the calendar, he'll have an ample opportunity to prove himself here, won't he? With the likes of Austria, Belgium, Silverstone as well. Very historic tracks, been around for absolutely yonks. So, if he does perform well on those tracks, he's looking to try and get a solid result at the end of the season to boost him up the standings just a little bit. But he does just need that little bit more when it comes to these sort of newer or modified circuits. The likes of Portimao, Abu Dhabi. Mind you, I'll say Abu Dhabi, it's been around now for almost 15 years, if not bang on 15 years.
Yeah,
That's mad.
It feels more like it's got its place on the calendar now, doesn't it, really? It's got its home as the season finale for now, and I think it does provide some great racing. I do actually think that the swing that we're going to see in the Middle East, of course we've got Abu Dhabi, then Saudi Arabia, then Qatar, that's really going to be important for the rest of the season, because if you can get a good set of results there, with only 2 rounds to go after that, of course, at Belgium and at Silverstone, it's going to put you in a fantastic position to win the championship.
Yes, it's going to give you that all necessary momentum as well. But we've mentioned it before, a lot of these tracks can share resemblance to one another. If we see a good performance here tonight by one of the drivers, we can potentially expect him to transfer it to the likes of Saudi, to the likes of Qatar, given the nature of this track in comparison to them. All of which, relatively high downforce, very fast, very flowing. But those tracks do have a little bit more risk, considering Qatar, you've got the track limits for a lot harsher than what they are around Zandvoort. And then Saudi Arabia, of course, you've got the walls. They're impossible to miss sometimes, especially for me, personally.
Yeah, it's not ideal if you're on a pad, I think it's fair to say, and speaking from vast previous experience on that. It's just not particularly fun if you're having to spend every single corner trying to turn in it, particularly when you've only got a little joystick to move the car, particularly through that Sector 1. It's quite tricky to make sure the car is going to come out the other side in one piece, but I think we're just going to have to see it run over the course of the season. We can see now cars just about going to get out onto track. Lovely sunny day here in the Netherlands.
Oh, you've said it. Darragh, you've said it. It's going to start raining. We know it's going to come. But no, in all seriousness, the weather around Zandvoort, it can play a prominent factor. We are right next to the ocean. The breeze is absolutely fantastic. It ruined my hair when I went. So, could it potentially ruin a couple of these drivers' laps by just having a little bit of a wind balance, maybe pushing the car in a slightly unfavourable position, especially heading through the Sector 1 of the dune section of this track?
And the weather can be unpredictable, can't it?
Yes.
Really, of course, on the North Sea coast, I have to say I am myself someone who lives in East Anglia, so I'm not a million miles away, really, in terms of actual distance from the track if you go across the North Sea. So we often do get quite a lot of showers. We might see some this evening, and we often get quite interesting races, particularly on the game when we might either go wet dry or dry wet here. So this could be an interesting one, particularly if we maybe see some rain at the end of the race. Of course, the wet line comes in. You've got to really think about when you go onto that intermediate or wet tyre. But you've got to get that lap time in first in qualifying, and that's what these guys are going to have to do. But Rapid Mini, medium tyre, he's definitely going for a banker.
Yes, absolutely. Just go, get yourself familiar with the circuit. It's one of those you can gain a lot more confidence on the more you run on it. And Rapid Mini's certainly looking to try and build a little bit more confidence heading up here into Tarzan. I'll tell you what, let's ride on board with him so we can kind of get a little bit of a feel for the camber of these corners, because sometimes it is absolutely massive. You might think Tarzan there has quite a steep bank. Well, if you're not familiar with turn 3, it's got to approach you real quick, and you can see him taking this lower line. Oh, there's so many different lines you could take. Personally, I would have expected maybe a bit of a higher line, trying to swoop it back down to carry momentum through 4, 5 and heading up into 6. But, end of the day, these drivers, they know what they're here for. They know how to race a lot better than me. And I would just want to see the sort of lines all these drivers are taking around this circuit, because you can practically take any line you want and make it feasible.
Yeah, it's an interesting circuit in that regard, particularly in this middle sector. We're now seeing Rapid all the way through this long left-hander at turn 9. Of course, nearly 180 degrees of rotation when you think about it. Down into the stadium section, of course, it tightens up on the track here. You don't want to go wide and dip your wheels into the gravel. But again, you don't want to lose that curb too much. You want to stick to it as much as you can. Into the final couple of corners now, of course, the DRS detection point has moved. It's right at the end of the stadium section, and you open it just here before you start turning around the banking. So it has that extra bit of chance to overtake down into turn 1. We're going to have to see how that works during the race. But a very good banker for Rapid Mini. A 9.6 on that medium.
Certainly looking brilliant. We've got more drivers approaching the line off that banking. We've got Banana there, who is keeping it nice and short to the line. We mentioned around Portimao how much time it could potentially gain you, and that sim racer and Banana are prime examples of it. They didn't keep it high. They ended up running it a little bit narrow coming off the banking, and they've been able to find a better result off of it. That sim racer currently sitting on provisional pole with a 108.8, but I'm sure we can see those lap times crumble away with the track evolution around here, because it is so close to the beach. A lot of sand can get brushed onto the track, and then all it takes, maybe 1 or 2 laps on a slick compound rubber, all of a sudden all that sand's disappeared and you're just left with pure rubbered in tarmac behind you. And it'll be certainly something these drivers are going to be looking to try and take advantage of. We'll see Deboa once again taking a slightly higher line. It's going to be interesting to see where he's going to be able to put the car, and he jumps it up into P4 behind Rapid Mini on a medium lap. Very interesting.
It just shows how good that lap was from the AlphaTauri driver at the moment. That sim racer, though, championship leader, of course, in that Mercedes, looking very good early on. URL Basel, reigning champion here in Tier 1. Let's see if he can put together an early lap, but he's also going for a banker on the medium tyre, also sticking it low through turn 3. So similarities from the couple of medium drivers that we've seen so far. But let's see what he can do. Of course, up this straight, I say it's a straight, it's flat out, but there's a couple of kinks in there, and it's so dangerous to try and go side by side in the race, isn't it?
Absolutely. It reminds me of heading up the hill at Monaco, coming straight out at Saint Devant. You can do it, but should you is probably the better question. But Basil, once again, you mentioned reigning champion. He's got the experience. He's got the wealth of knowledge at his fingertips, so he'll be looking to certainly maximise it around a circuit like this. Given its recent changes, there is still an awful lot which could be learned about the old circuit before Formula 1 even came back, and you can kind of adapt yourself to it. Of course, tracks being added just a little bit wider here and there, especially coming through the likes of the Audi S, but Basil won't care too much for that. As you can see him there, almost touching the grass, if not actually touching the grass, just trying to keep it as short as possible before heading up to the line to jump it into P4. We're looking at 109.6 there for the medium compound runners. Brilliant stuff. But while we was watching that, Scarenzi, just ahead of him, pops it in just a tenth quicker than that sim racer.
Yeah, we've got an interesting little battle going on at the top of the time sheet. Basel and Rapid Mini, you'd say, might be able to pop themselves in there. Of course, very good times on the mediums for now. We've got Finbop coming through the opening sequence of corners in the sister Mercedes to that sim racer. Of course, they'll be looking to move forward in the Constructors' Championship, but if that sim racer can't do it all on his own, he needs a little bit of support from his teammate in Finbop. But let's see what he can do. The number 45 on that Mercedes car as it runs its way through this long right-hander at 6 into 7. You keep going right at this point on the track, don't you? It's right, then right, then right, and you realise you've actually gone round 360 degrees.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, and you could just see from that off-board shot how high that mound is on the right-hand side, separating turn 6 and turn 9. It's absolutely fantastic, the amount of elevation change around this circuit. It doesn't look like too much, but if you consider the bankings as well, it can really go to show how much these drivers are having to struggle with probably trying to dial down their setup, just that last little touch as well, before they ended up jumping into this qualifying session and giving it a good go, because it's not one of those circuits you can whack any normal setup on and give it a shot. You really do have to try and fine-tune it to make sure you can find any increment of time possible, because it is such a short lap time around here as well, Darragh, isn't it?
It is. You really have to make sure that you get it right very quickly. A little mistake somewhere, and you're going to find it difficult to make up that time. On the conversation about setups, you could have to really procure it, or, if you're me, in a blind panic, ask your friend for one just before you get into the lobby because you've forgotten to do any practice. That's another option, and it's worked for me in the past. AJ Mackey in the Williams. Let's see what he can do. Good lap time up into P3, but there is that gap, isn't there, between the top two and the rest at the moment. 0.5, half a second, splitting the first row from the second row. But AJ Mackey, it doesn't really matter how close you are to the top two as long as you're near them in terms of position, and he's there, P3.
Absolutely. You've got to think with DRS train will carry him forward. He's just got to make sure that once the race starts, he's able to keep within the DRS train and follow the cars through. That's going to be absolutely pivotal to these drivers and their success around Zandvoort. It might go without saying, of course, you've got to be within a second of a car in front to try and get an overtake, but it just adds up so much more around Zandvoort. Thinking, realistically, the only overtaking opportunities, potentially, you're looking at Tarzan, maybe turn 3 if you try an alternate line, and then of course the Audi S as well. But it's such a short DRS run down here as we see Banana now taking a right-hander, and then it tightens up so much to the left-hand side, doesn't it? It's going to be very difficult to try and make a move there. So, for me personally, I'll definitely go for something maybe a little less draggy, and just trying to carry the speed coming through off this banked pin, just trying to get it down into Tarzan. But there's so many different ways the drivers can take it.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're going to be thinking about, particularly at the start of the race, because we might see a couple of breaks in the trains. But if we don't, if we see one train really moving its way through, it's going to be really difficult for anybody to make a move, because when you're stuck in that DRS train, particularly around somewhere like Zandvoort, unless you really, really abuse that button that you've got in terms of the overtake, you're not going to be able to make your way past. And if you do use that button too much, you're going to find yourself vulnerable at the end. So it's a bit, you're between a rock and a hard place, really. We see Rabin there going currently provisionally on pole, I should say, sorry. 8.6 for him. And there does seem like there are the drivers that we've seen up there the last few weeks. They are starting to pull away a little bit from the rest.
Yep, certainly. So it does sort of tend towards, the drivers who are able to keep the momentum from the last race, just keeping it rolling, keeping it moving. They'll find themselves getting in a more advantageous position in the championship, which of course would give them more confidence looking forward. But it's just one of those snowball effects, isn't it? It'll keep coming until it finally happens for a couple of these drivers. Speaking of which, we do have a couple drivers out there still on a lap. We've got a very mixed running session here, don't we, Darragh? Everyone's sort of doing their own thing. No one's really conforming to the standard norm of waiting for an opportunity. But what I will point out that we have noticed, you can see that ERS light flashing as soon as they're coming off of the banking at turn 13. Would it potentially be beneficial to maybe try and harvest a little bit of battery, especially heading through the likes of turn 11, the likes of turn 9, where you're being patient on the throttle? Surely you would toggle the battery off at that point to try and save as much as you can.
Yeah, it's something that they're going to have to think about doing. I mean, you'd really say that...
Oh,
where's that sim racer? That is not the line. Very nicely slid, though, through the corner. Make sure it doesn't get in the way of the Alpine and everyone coming through, because there's quite a few cars making their way through Sector 2 now. But I was about to say that on the ERS, you haven't really got very many hard braking zones. You could say that turn 1's a bit of a hard braking zone, but at the same time, you're still keeping quite a high minimum speed through the apex of the corner. Your ERS consumption is still going to be high across the lap, and the regeneration is not going to be high. So particularly in the race, you don't want to be spending that ERS button if you're in a DRS train, because you're just going to be using it for no gain, and then you're going to find yourself vulnerable from those who have saved it. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that, particularly during the race. Basil, though, we're on board with him. He looks like he's improving now, because of course he set that time on the mediums. But the middle sector split's going to be quite indicative, I think, because you pick up a lot of the time in the middle sector, and you can see, yeah, nearly 6 cents up already.
Oh, brilliant stuff from Basil. As you would expect, improving the lap time from the mediums, but as well, the track evolution slowly starting to creep in. We've still got 6 minutes left of the session, so we can see a little bit more improvement here and there from these drivers, but realistically, Basil's going to have to put in a more representative lap time. In comparison to what he did on the mediums, I was expecting a 0.8 coming up towards the line, maybe a 0.7, and he was just barely still within the 109s. Not exactly the ideal solution there for Basil, but plus side, he's got enough time. Give it another go. If he feels like he made a mistake heading through a complex of corners, he can have another attempt at it. It's not the end of the world. But with drivers like Scorenzi who are currently out on the lap, they've got to start considering maybe, just maybe, abandoning this lap, diving it back into the pits, and waiting until that final opportunity to get the lap on the board. Because currently sitting on with a 108.7, that's going to take a little bit of work to get an improvement. As he's going to come across the sector line, you can see he's 2 tenths down.
He is. It's not the best of laps, and I think he might peel into the pit lane. He's got enough time, of course, to do so through the final couple of corners. So let's see. He may have had an awful final sector, but you can already see that red light flashing at the back, indicating that he is trying to regenerate some of that battery. There we go. Comes into the pit lane as well. Another thing to note as well about this track, difficult little pit lane, isn't it, on the entry? It has caught out a few drivers in the past, on the game particularly. with the wall just jutting out a little bit and the quick change of direction that you need, can't afford to pick up any wing damage there, can you?
No, it's a very awkward sort of entry to the pit as well, especially if you're considering some drivers racing side by side. One of them wants to go into the pit, they're going to have to back out of any sort of battle. They won't be able to sort of force their, rival into the pit lane with them. That's not how it works. So, potentially seeing maybe darting for an undercut for a last-minute decision might not be beneficial, especially if you are taking that high banking around turn 13. But again, it's all down to the drivers, the sort of way they want to handle this circuit. I feel like we could definitely see a couple of interesting moves happening throughout the course of a race, especially during that second stint when they should potentially use a little bit more of that battery and not be as afraid to try and break a little bit of a DRS train and cause a couple of, upset people to maybe lose a bit of DRS from battling. But end of the day, that's motorsport, that's racing, and that is sim racing. The reason why we're all here. But I feel like it should go without saying, safety cars can be a feature here, Darragh.
Yeah, of course. The walls aren't very far away at any point on this circuit. I think we just saw, I think that was Tintoretto popping it up into P8 as well. Good luck from him. But no, you can see all the way around this track. I mean, if you make a slight mistake, if there's a little bit of contact, you're going to find a little bit of grass, and then you're going to find quite a hard bit of steel, and your tyre can pop off the car once you hit that. So safety cars are a prominent feature around this circuit, and you've just got to be aware. You've got to be on your toes in terms of strategy, just in case that one gets called out late, one gets called out, and you've got to make a split-second decision whether you want to or you can come into the pit lane. These are all things you've got to worry about. Banana coming into the pit lane, currently doing much better than we're seeing Alpine do in real life at the moment. In Formula 1, so there's at least that as a bit of a consolation prize, but he won't be too worried about that. Finbop starting his lap, though, currently P13. Let's see what he can do.
He's got to get up there, doesn't he? He's got to have a solid qualifying performance. We know he can make it in the race. We know he's very quick when it comes to races. But Finbop, otherwise known as Finbap, if you're like me and can't read, certainly is looking to try and get himself up there with the likes of that sim racer. Purple first sector, looking to keep the improvement. But again, it's one of those circuits. You push a little bit too hard at that first sector, you're paying the ultimate price heading through that second sector. It's one of those where you kind of got to balance the usage of tyres between the first two sectors, and then when it comes to the third sector, just nurse the tyres home. They're going to be so well, overheated, for a lack of a better term. They're going to be absolutely boiling. They're going to want to start sliding. They're not going to be happy trying to get the grip through 12 and 13. But it's just one of those things where you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of time in this final sector to make sure you're able to maximise the first two sectors of the track, because that can be where the most time is gained. And we see him there rising up into P9. But considering he had a purple first sector, maybe he did overcut the tyres in that.
Possibly, but then again, you can never really trust the purple first sector. And I think I did read somewhere once that the purple sectors were basically for the top 10 and then the next 10, or however many drivers there were left. So he set the fastest time of those who were 11th lower. I think I read that somewhere. I might have dreamt it. I'm not counting that out. But that could be something that happened. Either way, he's up into P9. Oliver Sequeira, he went for an interesting strategy, didn't he, at Portimao last week. Nearly worked out when he went onto the intermediates right at the end of the race, and he moves himself up into P9. Then we have one of the original members of the league, Crew Steamers, trying to improve his position from P15. What can he do? He goes up into P14. But a nice improvement will give him a little bit of confidence, particularly heading into tomorrow.
Exactly, considering he's going to be returning back to Zandvoort, isn't he? I feel like for that, for Crew Steamers, this is going to be an opportunity to have a little bit of a learning curve. Try and understand the track just a little bit more. You're not only getting just lap practice, you're getting race practice, which is something almost invaluable to a lot of these drivers, where they wouldn't necessarily be able to go out and just get it anywhere else. But fortunately for him, he's able to fill in this top tier, and maybe try and dissect a couple of the lines a couple of these drivers are taking. So if you are planning on joining us tomorrow, same time? No, 10 PM tomorrow for tier 2. Keep an eye on Crew Steamer's lap time, because I can guarantee you he'll set a better lap tomorrow, just because he will have that little bit more experience under his belt.
Yeah, of course, we got caught out by the times, didn't we, at the start of the season? But we know them now. We know not to turn up 45 minutes early for the race.
We were just excited. Just excited.
We were just excited for the race. We just had to wait, and we were sitting there tensely waiting for it to start. But let's see what Mini can do. Through turn 9 he comes, of course, opening that DRS onto this shortish straight down towards the stadium section. He's nearly half a second up, and that is very much a credible purple middle sector. This could be the fastest time, and if it's not, it could very well do enough to put himself onto the front row as he works his way through the final couple of corners. He'll open the DRS once again as Rapid Daz retires from the session. No more improvements from the Alfa Romeo, but what can the Alfa Tauri do? Can he put it on pole here? Provisional at least. Yes, he can. And it's an 8.5. It's the fastest time we've seen by over a tenth. And we'll have to see if anybody can try and catch back up to that.
We got Banana next to cross the line. I'll tell you what, Rapid Mini was absolutely flying there. Let's see if Banana's going to be able to fly anything out here as he improves to P7. Brilliant stuff there from the young driver. Looking further down the field as well, we do have Rapid Connor, who's just about to approach the line. Where's he going to be able to put himself in the McLaren? He jumps up to P7. Brilliant result from him. But we still have more drivers coming across the line. Eric is up next.
Here he comes in the AlphaTauri. Could it be an AlphaTauri 1-2 here between the two drivers? Yes, it can, and there's not much between them. Can Rabin unseat them? Yes, he can. It's an 8.5 for him, and about 400ths quicker than we saw Rapid Mini go. What can Scarenzi do? Can he just about nick it at the last? Or will he have to settle for the first row or even the second row? It's only the front row, but it's 5,000ths of a second between the two drivers at the front. Incredibly close between the top two, and don't count out Mini and Eric behind, because the top four, half a tenth in it. AJ Mackie in the end, he'll pop himself up into P7, and that Sim Racer championship leader validates his time. But what a tight session come the end.
Yes, absolutely fantastic stuff from Rabin, showing us once again he does have that pace. He's just got to sort of translate it across. And Scarenzi, little else has to be said about him, doesn't it? He's a fantastic talent, showing himself up once again. PlayStation representative, putting himself on the front row, looking to try and maybe get a move heading into Tarzan on lap 1. It'll be very brave and very bold, but we know Scarenzi is one of those drivers who has almost too much confidence, knowing where to put the car, how it handles, how to operate it. I'm expecting fireworks down into turn 1, to say the very least, Darragh.
I mean, 4 drivers at the top, split by literally half a tenth of a second. Incredibly close, incredible stuff from all 4 drivers. But Rabin does take pole and takes the 8 points with it. Scarenzi has to settle for P2, but he'll hope to get the launch off the line. 5,000th is absolutely nothing. The top 4, Rapid Mini and Eric, within a blink of an eye of the fastest time, with that Sim Racer championship leader settling for P5, but with that validated lap he may have gone quicker. Basil reigning champion P6 with AJ Mackie in the Williams P7. Rapid Connor and Rapid Daz, along with F7 R Banana, round out the top 10. Is Tintoretto, Oliver Sequeira, Finn Bop and Dee Bowyer running out the top 14, with crew steamers Alfredo and Oliver James rounding out the 17 drivers that we will see around this Zandvoort circuit. 36 laps to come, and this looks like it's going to be an absolute cracker. I'm
excited. I don't normally get spoiled with these circuits. First it was Portimao, now it's Zandvoort. I've only ever seen one race around here, in the sim racing scene. And it was a Creator Series race, which was, you know, quite a long haul for a 100% race. So I'm very excited to see how this one's going to play out with all these drivers. But it is overcast. I'm worried. Darragh, you've cursed us again.
We'll wait and see on that one. But no, also on this, on Zandvoort, in some of the races that I've done in the past, I have seen a couple of wet dry races. I think it was wet then dry then wet again. And one driver who isn't often in it for race wins, who isn't often right up there fighting the top guys. He can be fighting for a podium, but definitely not for a win. He won it by 30 seconds, fair and square, because he got the strategy right. He used the tyres to the best of their ability, and he just had a fantastic race. We might see something similar here this evening from one of the drivers, maybe a driver outside of that top 4, but any of them at the moment you could give a very good case to win this race.
Absolutely. So, let us know your predictions in chat. I'm gonna have to agree with YouTube. Oh, never mind. We've got 5 red lights here. No time for predictions, apparently, as we're ready to get set here. And it's lights out, away we go at Zandvoort. Scarenzi there has quite a slow launch. He might be vulnerable to the 2 AlphaTauris behind him, locking out that second row. But they're going to file through there in an orderly fashion. It's beautiful to see all these cars respecting one another, all the drivers sharing the track, not necessarily trying to force any moves. But I say that, we see AJ Mackey diving it down to the lower half there in turn 3 on that soft compound tyre, really trying to get a little bit more traction there, but there wasn't too much more to be gained. We've got the likes of Rapid Mini as well on that soft compound tyre, surely looking to try and get past Eric at the first opportunity. But we do have a very split tyre compound here between all the drivers taking part.
And Rapid Daz, though, actually, around the outside at turn 3, I think he picked off at least 2 of them around the outside. It was a fantastic move from him. And we'll have to see if he can use that hard tyre a little bit more in this opening stint, because the race looks like it may come back to him. Rapid Mini gets past his teammate Eric on that soft compound of tyre. I think Eric actually got the jump on him off of the line, but it's Rab and Scarenzi, Rapid Mini and Eric, as they were really off of the start. The top 2 not really fighting away. You can see in the background, though, D. Bowyer and Oliver Sequeira going side by side, as the Red Bull will just have to give that one up. But D. Bowyer goes very wide and will open the door for the Red Bull. But at the front, it's pretty much as they were as we complete the opening lap.
Absolutely, and you've got to consider a couple of these drivers are going to be very tempted to deploy a bit more battery, aren't they, Darragh? But they cannot afford to do so. They've kind of just got to wait for the DRS to get open and understand that the places where they're going to be able to make the positions and really make them count will be in that second tyre stint, regardless of what tyre they go on to. Whether they're started on hards, looking to go to the soft, if the wet weather comes as well, ERS is going to be also much more important, given the fact they won't have DRS. And with the weather looking at the way it is at the moment, certainly a potential for rain must be lurking in a couple of these drivers' minds.
Yeah, and that might be why we've seen a couple of drivers go onto a soft compound of tyre, but we'll keep our we'll hold the jury out on that one, because we do see a few drivers on the hards, so it would suggest that they're not expecting rain too early on in this race. It might just be overcast as we work our way through these 36 laps of Zandvoort. But Rapid Mini, look at him, just giving a little bit of a love tap on the back of the Haas there, just helping him through this stadium section of the track. But we can already clearly see the top 4 starting to get away at the front, and if Basil can't get himself back inside that DRS pretty quickly, we might see this front 4 start to stretch their legs in this race.
Certainly, you've got to consider as well that Sim Racer got caught out by Basil heading through turn 6, so he's had to make an overtake here as well, which of course might not seem like much, but he's had to go off a racing line. It'll get marbles on his tyres. The car won't feel as comfortable heading through turns 2, turns 3 here as well. He could lose a little bit more time to the likes of Eric, which of course won't help him in his championship battle here. He's looking to close up to these top 4. He's looking to put a bit of pressure on, get within the DRS and really try and hunt them down, but it's going to be a very, very tall order for him to do so, especially when you've got the likes of Rapid Mini, who seem to be absolutely flying on that soft compounded tyre. Surely we could expect similar things from AJ Mackey to be cutting himself through the field.
Yeah, let's wait and see, though, because he has got a better tyre, much better tyre compared to Rapid Daz just in front of him. But look at this battle here. Rapid Mini right on the back of Scarenzi. He is making sure that he is very much in the mirrors of the Haas. But will it be to any avail here? I mean, turn 1 could be a good opportunity to make a move, but will he be able to? He's dropped a little bit back through that stadium section, and Scarenzi will hold on to that DRS as they make their way down to turn 1. For the 4th time in this race, as they start lap 4... Quick problem with maths in my mind there, but yes, we are starting lap 4, because 3 plus 1 is 4. But let's see, that's Sim Racer. He's setting a good pace, and he's putting himself back inside that DRS very comfortably, as we have a train from 1st all the way down to 9th.
Absolutely, that was a titanic lap from that Sim Racer to catch back up, but the only concern I might have is about his battery. You can see it there, hovering around that 50% mark. That's going to take a little longer to recharge, but he's more than happy to burn just a little bit to ensure he stays within the DRS, and he doesn't let these top 4 escape, and by doing so, he's managed to bring in the rest of the field as well. This could certainly spice things up, especially when it comes to that first pit stop window.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a different pit stop window for all of them, really, though, isn't it? Because Rapid Mini, you'd think, would come in first, and then Rab and Scarenzi, Eric. Do they go on to a 2-stop from here? Because you can do a 2-stop, a medium soft, or even a medium soft. Could be something that they're thinking about. Daz on the hard, definitely going for the 1-stop. But we might see quite a split in strategy. If we go safety car free, this could be quite an interesting race all the way to the flag. So I hope we are able to get through most of this race without having to watch the safety car just mull around for a couple of laps. But let's see. DRS open once again. Scarenzi, he's very close on the back of Rabin, where he wasn't last time around. Is he close enough to make a move? No, look at Rapid Mini here. He's going for the move, using some ERS, I'm sure, down in towards turn 1. The inside line for the AlphaTauri driver. He's got that soft tyre. Has he got enough grip and traction, though, on it? Outside line for Scarenzi. He's all over the road. He's all over that curb. But Rapid Mini has that move. Oh, but he doesn't anymore. That's a spin. And he's out of the race. Oh, he's not out of the race just about, but that's going to cause a virtual safety car. And just as he got through for P2, he's made a mistake on his own through turn 2, and it's going to cost him such a good chance in this race.
That's exactly what I was mentioning with the setups. You have to dial them in perfectly. And you saw there, it just wasn't to be, was it? It's just a slight mistake. Having a slightly different racing line completely caught Rapid Mini off guard. Now he's missing a front wing, virtual safety car, and you've got to just feel sorry for the AlphaTauri driver. Yes, it was his own fault, but at the same time, you know, it's heartbreaking to see. He went for a bold move, he went for a brave move on Scarenzi, and it just didn't work out. That's absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's so unlucky for him. It's good he's still in the race, though. And it's good that we've only got a virtual safety car for in a racing point of view. Not very good for Rapid Mini, but he's really just going to be that pit stop behind as we go back to green flag racing. No one falling victim to a drive-through penalty by speeding under the virtual safety car as it comes in.
Hello.
But it's now a case of the top 6, isn't it? Away is Scarenzi. He's going to go for the lead into turn 1. Oh, very inside line.
Yes, absolutely. But you see there, he's not necessarily willing to put the tyres under too much strain. He backs out of it. He just wanted to have a little look, seeing if the opportunity was open. But he knows if you end up putting him around the outside of Tarzan, you get the outside line heading into turn 2, you're in a much favourable position. Not only to get the traction out of it, but also looking at turn 3. But you can see Scarenzi now. He's really decided to turn up the pace, hasn't he? He's more than willing to try and put Rabin under a bit more pressure, trying to force him into a stake. But then again, we've seen Rabin be put under pressure many, many times already this season. And I don't think, to my recollection, I don't think he's crumbled once to it.
No, he's been very resolute, you'd have to say. But, I mean, Scarenzi, that was a weird line he took, really, wasn't it, into turn 1? It didn't really look like he was prepared to make the move. Didn't really open himself up to having a good apex speed. And that's really why he wasn't able to get through. Eric and that sim racer are following in along. Basil as well. Rapid Daz at the back of this train. Of course, on that hard compound of tyre, he might be able to try and something in this race. If a one-stop comes to him, a hard medium, he'll have very good tyres at the end of the race. And we'll have to see if that can work out for him. But at the moment, he is the one driver, you'd have to say, that's in an interesting position at the moment. And Scarenzi easily into the lead this time around.
Yes, I don't feel like Rabin wanted to fight that one too much. He moved off a racing line and came back over to make sure he was able to brake on the racing line, minimising the amount of marbles he would pick up on his tyre. So Rabin here just slotting back into P2, maybe looking to recharge a little bit more battery, maybe a slight bit more brake drag, and just hoping the DRS will be able to kind of carry him forward. But you do have to say Scarenzi almost pulling half a second already through that first sector. It's looking good for Scarenzi's pace so far early on in this first stint.
Yeah, it's looking nice for the Haas, but of course he's got to try and pull that gap back to Rabin, which is going to be oh so difficult for him. Eric might have a little bit of a sniff at Rabin as well. He looks a little bit vulnerable over the last couple of laps. It might be a chance for the AlphaTauri driver to maybe have a look. But while saying that, that sim racer looks like he's quite close to the back of the AlphaTauri. So it's all really up in the air. I mean, oh, look at that inside line maybe for Rapid Daz. Thinks better of it just as they get to the braking zone. But on that hard tyre, he looks keen.
Yeah, and he certainly looks like he's got the pace in comparison to these mediums, doesn't he? I'm not sure when those medium tyres are necessarily supposed to drop off, but I shouldn't expect it to be this soon. But Rapid Daz is able to make those hard tyres work beautifully. We saw it on lap 1, taking the high line and just making sure he was able to get the temperature in the tyre. And again, you see, he's not necessarily willing to make the moves just yet, indicating that maybe, just maybe, he's waiting for those medium tyres to fall off just a little bit more. But he does have to keep in mind, he does have some very quick drivers, the likes of Rapid Connor, AJ Mackey behind him, on softer tyres. But with that said, he is doing a stellar job on these hard compound tyres, making sure he's able to hold pace with these guys up at the front and yet still keep a buffer behind. It's fantastic.
Yeah, he's doing a very good job, but look, you can see a bit of a red light flashing at the back of Rapid Daz. He has used a lot of that ERS, which means that even though he's stuck in this train, he might have to do some ERS management over the next part of this stint to have a go on his fresher tyre. You think that it's going to be a softer compound than the drivers around him by the time he gets onto it, but some of these guys might try a two-stop, the likes of Basil might have a go. But as they run down in towards the stadium section once again on lap 8, you can see Rapid Daz. He's clearly got quite a lot of pace in that car, just not able to use it for now. But these top 6, they are starting to make it a race of their own, because Rapid Connor and AJ Mackey are falling back, and behind them there's another gap back to Banana.
Absolutely. We've still got a couple more battles breaking out across the field. Looking at the battle there for P11 with Deboer and Oliver James as well. All of it sort of seems to be breaking out wherever across the board. I thought we was going to see a little bit more of a reserved race from a couple of these drivers, but they're more than happy to dump the battery and give it a go in this first stint of a race. But those of which have been patient and will save up just a slight amount more ERS are going to be able to reap so much more from that second stint, that they're able to deploy a little bit more battery on a soft compound tyre and a lighter fuel load as well. They should realistically be trying to fly past a couple of these drivers, but they've got to make it to the second stint of a race. It's no good saving up all your battery and then having an instant, having a spin, finding yourself towards the back of the field. They've got to just keep it steady, keep it calm, and then look to build on it after the pit stop. They can't think too far ahead at this moment.
No, they've got to make sure that they're in the moment. Look at this, though. Eric trying to move on Rabin there, down in towards the stadium section. Not going to work out. Maybe just trying to put him offline to make sure that he's not in that DRS window of Scorenzi, but he is just about as they get through the the detection point, as they get to the activation point now. Finbop 3-second time penalty. That is not ideal. First driver who you would say is not a pit stop down to pick it up as there's a spinner. That's Oliver James. Spinning around down at the stadium section as well. Eric maybe looking for the move, nothing going for him. But all whilst we sit in this train at the moment on lap 10, it might be making some of these drivers start to think, well, what can I do on the strategy to try and make this so that I can get past without really having to make the move on track?
Yeah, it's where, you know, I'm sure Eric would very much appreciate having Rapid Mini in this squabble on a soft compounded tyre so he could try to force a couple drivers to cover him off. But unfortunately, that's not the way the cookies crumbled. We do have all these guys, with the exception of Rapid Daz on that medium compounded tyre, they will be directly competing with one another, and a VSC could potentially help one of them if they're able to make it back around to the start-finish in time to try and get a bit of a cheaper pit stop. But at the same time, having to do 26 laps on a set of soft tyres isn't feasible. They would have to go to a set of hard compounds. But with the pace Rapid Daz has shown, they don't look like a bad compounded tyre at this moment, do they?
No, and to be honest, if I was one of these drivers, if this virtual safety car doesn't say it's coming in before they get to the pit line, I might try an extra set of medium tyres here. I might give it a go, see what I can do. There'd be a nice little bit of clean air, I think, that you'd probably be able to come out into, and even if you get a little bit of traffic, you should be able to power through with much fresher tyres. Does anybody go for it? Yes, we see a couple of... No, we don't. Ooh, that was a bit of a cutting of the pit of the white line we saw there from Eric. I'm not too sure what the rule is on that. And yeah, you're right, hard tyre. Going on to the Mercedes. This could be a good call to get to the end of the race. But you can see here, Daz going for a medium. Probably medium to the end for him.
Yes, certainly. Would look that way unless he's going to be able to whisper sweet nothings to that medium compounded tyre to make sure it's staying alive all the way until the end of this race. But again, that'll be a very tall order. But Rabin's got a brilliant restart here, hasn't he, under that VSC? He's all over the back of Scorenzi through that first sector, has winded himself through the S's before heading into Marlborough here. The tight right-hander, slightly more open, but he's just going to have to wait and bide his opportunity here. It won't be given to him. He's got to make this move. He will not just get it given to him like you would see around other circuits. You've kind of got to brute force your way through, especially in this middle sector.
You got to work for it, don't you, Zan?
Yes.
In a way that you don't really have to with other racetracks, as you touched on. But whilst working for it, it makes you drive a little bit harder than you normally would. Maybe forces you into an error that you wouldn't otherwise make. But let's see here, the top three very close together as they make their way off the banking. Could Eric maybe try and get both of them here? They're going to be three wide across the line. Here comes Eric, here comes Rabin. They're both through on Scorenzi. The AlphaTauri, though, on the inside line, always a little bit ahead into the braking zone. But Rabin around the outside is going to keep his foot in. They're going to be turned two side by side, and it's going to be the inside line for the AlphaTauri. They don't really come to blows too heavily, which is good to see. Good to make sure that none of them might end up in the wall. But I spoke too soon, because that's Scorenzi out of the race. That's a full safety car, and that's just so unfortunate. It looked like Rabin didn't see that Scorenzi was on the outside line, and there was front wheel to rear wheel contact. And Scorenzi, a championship contender, no longer scoring any points this evening.
That is absolutely huge. I feel like Rabin had a slight twitch there coming out of the corner. I'm not sure whether he was sliding or whatnot, but whatever it was, his rear ended up just connecting with Skrenzi's front, and Skrenzi had no way of avoiding that one, did he? He was a passenger as soon as Rabin lost the rear of a car. Skrenzi was at the will of a ball.
Yeah, and I think we might see, I think the top 4 all go for a medium tyre here. Banana, oh sorry, not for a medium, for a hard, sorry. Banana, I don't really know what he's going to do, probably a medium plan to the end, maybe a medium soft, but we'll see what he goes for. But it's an interesting one, isn't it, at this point of the race, because we're a third of the way through this race, so you'd think that the hards could probably very easily get to the end, but it's not necessarily a banker of an option as they all peel in. Rabin just about coming in as the last of the 3, but look at Basil up there. Basil, he kept his nose clean there, picked up 3 places.
Yep, he's done exactly what he needed to do, and now we've got those drivers who took a little bit of a risk by pitting under a VSC. They're going to lose out.
Yeah, well, they might lose out, but you have to say that the others were fighting, weren't they?
Yes.
So, as we do see them actually go through, yeah, you can see that Sim Racer has gone through into the lead of this race.
Darragh,
Rapid Daz is P2.
You've got to consider the age of their tyres. 2 laps, it's not a lot, but in this game, it's the world. It's like having, you know, a set of intermediates compared to a set of slicks. It's absolutely huge once it comes to that drop-off window.
That is true, but you also have to remember it was only really a lap, wasn't it? Because the safety car came out pretty early on the
True,
previous
very
lap,
true.
So they won't have put too much wear through him. But no, but you're right in terms of the tyres will start to wear, and I don't think really Rapid Daz is planning to go to the end. I wouldn't imagine those tyres will absolutely drop off a cliff if he tries that. And he's in a train of cars where if you do that, you're going to fall a long way behind. But that Sim Racer Championship leader, he's in a good spot here, especially if he can try and work with Rapid Daz here, because Rapid Daz on that medium tyre, if that Sim Racer can try and stick to him and use his pace on that softer compound, he might be able to try and pull away from the rest.
Yeah, I can already recall the famous Lewis Hamilton radio messages of the safety car's not going quick enough, tell it to speed up, because you can see that Sim Racer right up behind the safety car. He wants to get this moving as soon as possible, doesn't he? He doesn't want to wait any longer, but he will have to wait just a little bit longer. We've still got a McLaren, a Haas, and an AlphaTauri yet to catch back up to the pack, but we talk about getting given a lifeline. Rapid Mini still in a chance to score a good handful of points here.
He is, and that's a very good point, actually. He's been allowed a lifeline, absolutely, to try and maybe just put himself back up into the order. Maybe another safety car can shoot him right into contention. But we will have one more lap on the safety car. We'll see if Rapid Mini can catch. There's about 35, 40 seconds behind at the moment in terms of actual pace. But we'll see if he can make that up before the safety car comes back around. Of course, not a very long lap here at Zandvoort, is it? So it's a little bit hard to catch up when you're that far behind.
Nah, he's 100% going to catch up. He's even burning a little bit of battery, bless him, just making sure he can catch up. Because as soon as he's back on the rear of his pack, he's more than fine to brake, drag to recharge the battery as fast as he would feasibly be able to. So he's more than happy to burn it right now, just making sure he gets there. Because at the end of the day, he needs that DRS to be able to have his chance here. He needs the rest of the drivers to stop squabbling, just fall back in, have a little bit of a DRS run, so he can get that opportunity on those drivers, which he is naturally quicker than, especially heading through the likes of Turn 3, as we see there. He's giving us full beans at the minute, isn't he?
He is, and yeah, you're right, he will quite easily catch. And we'll get back underway. 22 laps, I think, we'll then have to the end of this race. 22 laps, should see the hards get there, but the mediums, that's another question. Don't count out Rabin, trying to get through on the likes of Rapid Connor, Basil, Banana as well. He might have a little bit of a go. And keep an eye on Rapid Mini from the back. Of course, he had pace to be right at the front of the field. Ran in P2 ever so briefly before that mistake cost him a front wing. But here comes the safety car into the pit lane, and from here, really, that Sim Racer, he should be able to control the field, but Daz, he's going to be quick on that medium tyre.
Yeah, we saw what he was like on the hards. I can only imagine how quick he's going to be on the medium, but for a moment I thought that Sim Racer already went heading through turn 11 there, but he's slowed the pack back up a little bit, hasn't he? He's going to be looking for that perfect opportunity to get the launch. I can imagine it being high off the line here at turn 13.
When he decides to go, he's not gone just yet. He's waiting. Of course, you don't really want to give your competitors a slipstream down in towards turn 1, but he's leaving it very late, almost made it look like he's going to come into the pit lane. Doesn't. He will continue on. He's got to be careful, though, because we go green once again here. They're all so close as they cross the line, and there's a couple of moves in the mid-pack as we work our way through the opening corner. There's Oliver Sequeira, maybe getting a tap from behind in the from an Alpine. I think that was D. Bowyer, but Banana sweeps around his outside as Rabin gets through on Rapid Corner as well. And those medium tyres, they've woken up very quickly.
Yes, absolutely. Eric has a slight little peep there inside of turn 3, but Rapid Daz is all over the back of that sim racer, really looking to try and put him under pressure, heading up into turn 6 here. But again, he's got to force an overtake. He can't just expect it to happen for him. That's the nature of Zandvoort, and he's certainly doing everything in his power to force that sim racer into making a mistake so he can get given a position. But around Zandvoort, it's going to be so difficult. All these drivers are absolutely dialed in. It's like a roller coaster around here, given the way the car handles, and sometimes it'll very much feel like the car's on absolute rails. But Rapid has had a brilliant restart there, being able to hold on to the back of that sim racer and keep the pressure on throughout the entire of that first and second sector. Brilliant stuff from the Alfa Romeo driver.
Yeah, and don't count out a move down towards turn 1 for him. Let's see what he can do, though. Through the banking he comes, through the final corner. I have no doubt that finger is going to be well and truly on the overtake button. Defending to the inside line incredibly hard there is that sim racer. Rapid Daz, they're going to come to the outside line. Can he dance his way on that outside line all the way into the lead of this race? He's onto the curb. He's into the lead, but is he? Because that sim racer is still on the inside as they run into turn 2. The inside line's back to Daz for turn 3, but a little bit of a wiggle on the curb means he doesn't get the best run. But look at the exit from him. Can he make the move? It's going to be you've got to be careful through here. They're going to be side by side, so close to contact, nearly touching wheels, but that sim racer just about holds off.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant defending there from that sim racer, but I don't think it'll be enough as we see Rapid Daz having a look at the inside, him getting pinched into the apex and ended up having to bail there. And that's going to give a great opportunity to Eric here to try and put one round the outside, heading through turn 9. But around Vodafone, it's going to be a very tall order, so he decides to cut it back. Just wait, try and buy a little bit more time, try and find a better opportunity, because we've got the likes of Rabin currently in P5, all over the back of Basel once again. We've got so many different battles breaking out here. This is where the medium tyres really need to try and make their statement. As we see Rabin having a slight wobble there coming out the corner. He's ended up going sideways, half spin there for him, currently finds himself in P7, but Rapid Daz... Did his wheel disconnect?
I'm not too sure. Something's happened there because he's gone straight into the wall and he's lost his front wing. We've got a virtual safety car here, and that really puts Rapid Daz out of contention. And he was in it for the win just a moment ago. But yeah, that's his front wing gone. Something must have happened. Maybe a moment on the exit curb coming through the final corner, but something's gone awry there for the Alfa Romeo. It leaves that sim racer with a nice little lead here on Eric. Can he try and keep it at the end of this virtual safety car and get himself out of DRS range?
He'll certainly be hoping so, won't he? Of course, he's got that slightly older compounded tyre, which won't help him in his bid to do so, but we know that sim racer is more than happy to push those tyres to the absolute extremities to somehow be able to pull out 1 or 2 temps. We've seen it before. I don't know how he does it, to be honest with you. I would give you a bit more of a technical insight on how he prepares his tyres, but he's just a magician being able to find time on them.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how we do towards the end of this race, particularly if we go safety car free, because I think without a safety car, all these guys on the hard, particularly, going to the end of the race. Nearing half distance, though, here at Zandvoort. Rapid Mini wasn't really able to do much on the restart, was he? And he's come back into the pit lane for a set of hard tyres, so he's not had the best of restarts. He's down there with Tintoretto and Rapid Daz, who you'd say are a pit stop down on the rest of the field. But we're going back to green flag racing, an entire lap's worth of a VSC. It was a long old one, but that sim racer's got the launch he wanted. And it's going to be a 1 second gap pretty much, but he's going to have to pull on this lap.
Yes, absolutely. You see Banana there going to the inside. Rapid Connor just taking that wider line, getting the run, heading up towards turn 2, and he's able to sweep it back around the outside. Brilliant stuff there for Rapid Connor. Looking to keep himself in P4 and try and close down to Basel, because he's currently within the DRS, so he does have the facilities to really try and mount a challenge for the podium here, which would be a brilliant result for the McLaren driver.
It would be fantastic for him, particularly as he wasn't really in that front train in the opening stages. But because he wasn't there, you worry that he may have a little bit of a pace deficit to the top 3. But we'll wait and see, because really, of that leading group that we saw at the start, it was 6 drivers. It's now really down to that sim racer, Eric and Basil, 1, 2, and 3 at the moment. But Rabin, you can see him all over the back of the Alpine, trying to make his way back up to that train. But he's got to be careful. Oliver James having an absolute mare of an evening, I think it's fair to say, spinning on the exit of turn 1. this time around. But Banana, I should say, losing the DRS to the top 4, could that leave him slightly vulnerable here?
Absolutely, you would expect a driver with the caliber of Rabin to really try and find that opportunity to send one, whether it's going to be up the inside, outside, Lord knows where, but one thing is for certain, we're going to go 3 wide into turn 1, into Tarzan. Brilliant stuff there from that Sim Racer, forces Eric offline. Rapid Connor sneaks himself up into P3, but Basil and that Sim Racer, there's no love lost between these two. They're absolutely going for it here. Basil there falls to the inside line. I am so sorry, Darragh, but what a move.
No, sorry, my bad. I thought I was handing over. Sorry, it was your tone of voice. It's fine. I was just going to say that Basil, it was a fantastic move from that Sim Racer to go right back around the outside at turn 3. It was oh so brave, and it worked out for the Mercedes driver. Eric on Connor because Connor spun around. What's their contact? We'll never really know because we obviously can't have a replay feature in this game. But it's either way. Rapid Connor spinning around right to the back, and look, Rabin, he's right back in there. We were talking about him trying to make his way back to that top 3, and all of a sudden, on a medium tyre, he's the next driver up to the top 3.
Surely, at this point, Eric's having to deploy a little bit more battery than he would necessarily like, especially with the likes of Rabin hot on his heels. Bananas there as well, both on the medium compounded tyre. They have potential to go just a little bit quicker in that middle section. They've got to make sure they make the most out of this DRS as Eric does pick up a DRS, but Basil and that Sim Racer are going at it once again, heading down into turn 1.
And it's going to be Basil taking the race lead once again, the reigning champion. He's not had the best of starts to his season. I think he missed a couple of races early on, but he is trying his best to try and recover all of those points that he missed out on. But he's got to be wary because Eric and Rabin, they are not far behind. If these two come together once again, we might see a different picture. But look, that gap, 1.1 now between that Sim Racer and Eric.
It's growing, isn't it? Eric on that fresher tyre. He's not exactly able to catch back up to under 1 second. I feel like a part of that might be down to the pressure that Rabin's been able to put on him within 0.2 of a second behind him throughout that entire middle sector. That's going to keep you looking in your mirrors. You might miss 1 or 2 apexes if you're not careful. But Eric there, I do believe he might have just picked up... No, he didn't. That's going to be critical. He's going to lose a lot more time here. He's going to have to be so late on the brakes in order to just try and attempt to get the DRS, and that'll force him into maybe a little bit of an error, which gives Rabin that little look at the inside. And now you've got to consider we might be going 3 wide once again, heading down into turn 1.
Will we see it? I mean, that Sim Racer looks like he's going to come through. No questions asked on Basil. Look at that. DRS enabled, already passed before they even get to the start-finish line. And he's up into P1. But look at Rabin, up into P3. He's made the move past Eric, who didn't have any real help with the DRS. And Banana slipping his way up the inside. You often slip on a Banana, but the Banana here has slipped through up into P4. And let's see if he can try and catch up to the top 3. He's closing into Rabin, who's made a little bit of a mistake there. But the top 5, really, they're all so tight now.
Absolutely, and you've got to give a special shout out there as well to Oliver Sequeira. Finds himself in P6. Yes, he's 2.4 seconds off the back of his pack, but he's 2 seconds clear of Deboya. So surely he's running his own race on that hard compound tyre. He's looking to get another good scoring result here once again. Just showing the level of consistency the drivers have in this league at PRL is absolutely fantastic, and I would probably go as far to say as maybe even unrivaled, because all the drivers which are often up there in the battle are still there, but Basil was very late on the brakes there. That'll give an opportunity to Rabin here to try and put one down the outside, I presume, of Tarzan, but it'll all depend what sort of line Rabin wants to take. We've seen him go to the inside, we've seen him go to the outside. What will it be this time?
Well, let's see. I mean, that Sim Racer's got a little bit of an advantage, hasn't he, compared to what we saw last time around, as he came right through the Mercedes driver and Basil not able to make a move. But look at in the background, Eric, nearly looking for an inside line, possibly trying to scare Banana off of the racetrack there, or definitely off his racing line.
Scared me.
Well, it didn't work for Eric in terms of making the way his way through up into P4. But as we see at the front, Basil trying an alternative line through turn 3 to try and get a better run up towards turn 6, this fast right-hander.
And it's absolutely what you see is once again all over the back of that Sim Racer. But again, that Sim Racer staying calm and composed under pressure. Brilliant stuff there from a Mercedes driver. There's a reason he's leading this championship, but there is a reason Basil won last season here at PRL. He's looking to try and make it a double, but of course he'll need a little bit of a form change, won't he? And he's certainly showing he's got exactly what it takes to still fight up here with the very best PRL has to offer in Tier 1. And he's certainly looking very eager to try and make this move on that Sim Racer. But the real question is, when's he going to want to strike? Because For me, I'd prefer just sit back maybe 1 or 2 laps, have a little recharge of a battery, and then try and go for that opportunity. But I don't think that sim racer is going to be playing ball with that sort of idea. He might just want to let him pass now.
Yeah, we'll have to see what he wants to do, but either way, Basil has run his way through, up into P1 once again, and these top guys, they're just starting to swap positions.
Oh!
That's a crash. That's another safety car. Ooh, this creates an interesting little atmosphere now as Rapid crash. It was in the final corner again there. Let's see if we can... Oh, I think... No, we're going to be past it, but maybe a similar incident to what we saw with... Who was it that went into the wall? Rapid Darragh, wasn't it?
Yes.
Maybe something similar to that, and just in fact didn't just lose the front wing, but lost his wheel. So either way, we got a safety car now. We had a safety car at the just at the end of the first third of the race, and now we've got a safety car at the end of the second third.
Well. If this doesn't turn a couple of heads towards that pit lane, I would be very much surprised. The likes of Oliver Sequeira, for example, could find himself in a brilliant opportunity if he's able to sort of encourage the other drivers to box by diving it into the pits. But again, there's an awful lot you can lose. 13 laps remaining around Zandvoort. It's not a track known for creating great overtaking opportunities. As we mentioned, you've got to make the move yourself. It won't get handed to you. How many of these drivers are going to sacrifice track position for that little bit of gain on a fresher tyre compound? Surely the likes of Rabin, Banana, Debauya, Crew Steamers, the medium compound runners are surely looking at this with gleaming eyes to try and dive it onto a new fresh set of mediums, if they have it at their disposal, of course.
Yeah, but we'll see who does have some fresh mediums. Of course, we saw a few drivers use it in qualifying, didn't we? And
Yes.
Basil was one of those drivers. So I don't believe he has a fresh set to his disposal.
Eric just lost a position to Banana there, because Banana knew he was going into the pit, so he just decided to make the move heading into the pit lane.
Quite impressive. Soft tyres, though, for everybody. They think they can get to the end. They're probably right. Banana has gone a little bit more conservative on a medium, and Rapid Darragh is staying out. Tintoretto drive-through, that's not ideal. But I think that Rapid Darragh is going to get swallowed up here on this safety car restart if he doesn't come in, because those fresh soft tyres are going to have so much more pace than the old mediums.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because as much as you would want to stay out for the track position, you can just see it coming, can't you? Basil, that sim racer, trying to put it around the outside of Tarzan, and then you're left with egg on your face and you're no longer leading the race. It's going to be such an interesting sort of way they're going to have to navigate the moving chicane of Rapid Darragh on the older compounder tyre. He's shown he's got the pace to battle it up with leaders. He's shown he's got the racecraft. Perhaps, if he's able to hold out for maybe 1 or 2 laps, could potentially try and find a way. If he's able to force him off onto marbles, off the racing line, try and just increase her tyre wear by any means necessary. I don't want to say it's possible, because it is very, very, very unlikely. But there's always a chance. There's always a chance, Darragh.
Yeah, there's always that slim possibility.
There's a reason I don't go to casinos.
This safety car's coming very quickly, though,
Yes!
isn't it?
Yeah. Didn't want to tally around.
Is it me, or the safety car hasn't crossed the start-finish line, has it?
No.
No, so that's coming it's coming a lap earlier than I thought it was going to be able to. But maybe they've changed that around in terms of the coding on the game. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Sedgar's in this lap. We've got 12 laps to the end. That makes it a little bit tougher to get to the end on the softs. Keep an eye for Banana, particularly in the later stages, if we are green to the end. Rapid Darragh, though, of course, he had that error in this corner that's dropped him all the way to the back, but he will get us back underway. He's got a very good restart, actually. Caught Basil a little bit napping on the run down towards turn 1, and he should be safe from any kind of moves from the guys behind. But that's a move. I think that's Oliver and Eric getting through on the Williams of Tintoretto, who maybe is slowing down because of the drive-through he has got, but Eric around the outside. Oliver defends into turn 2. Oh, this is getting very close.
This is indeed Oliver there absolutely sent it on both cars, as Eric has a massive slide there as well, and he gets a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. For
Maybe,
what?
He gained a position off track or something like that.
Can we get Kimi Räikkönen saying for what aggressively?
Yeah.
Can we get that clipped?
It may be able to be removed if he submits it to the stewards, but that is not for us to say. Basil, though, looking at very much risk here from that sim racer, who was danced around the outside at turn 9. You don't often see a move made there. He's got to finish it on the inside at turn 10 into the stadium section. Little bit of contact on the entrance to the corner, puts Basil offline, and here comes Rabin, the second of the 2 Alfa Romeos, trying to make the move himself as they run through this stadium section. Final couple of corners, Rabin not going to make it here. But that Sim Racer, an incredible move on Basil, and a move through the final corner on Rapidaz. What a final sector he's had.
Absolutely, but you're going to have to consider Rapidaz is going to get the benefit of Slipstream. If he deploys a little bit of battery, he might be able to try and have a little bite back around here. But again, you can just see that tyre differential, the grip he just doesn't have in comparison to those soft compound tyre runners that you alluded to when he stayed out for track position, really caused him there to lose just a little bit more time around Tarzan than he would have anticipated. But Basil here really has to get the move sorted before they approach Sector 2, doesn't he? You can see him swarming all over the back, trying to find any opportunity possible. But he's having just to sit back once again here. But the opportunity arises. Rapidaz there with a little tap there to the side of Basil, but Basil will not be happy with that, and you can tell by the absolute... I mean, what a dive.
I mean, it was effective, wasn't it? He made it stick, and Rabin has slipped up his way through as well. So now the top three, all on soft tyres, all you'd say, should be going to the end quite comfortably. But that 1.3 second gap is going to be critical for that Sim Racer. He needs to try and maintain it if he can. Not really going to come under too much pressure. Basil's only hope of winning this race is closing that gap relatively quickly, and then trying to use that DRS to his advantage. But it's only growing at the moment. But here comes Banana! There's contact! There's big contact. Both cars are absolutely wrecked there. Banana comes in. There wasn't time for Daz to come in. I think there was a little bit of contact as they made their way off of the corner. But either way, Eric's up to P4. But Oliver, all of a sudden, with Eric's penalty, he's in position for P4.
Absolutely. He's going to keep his head down, doesn't he? He needs to keep it clean for the remainder of this race. No time penalties, no wing damage. And he's looking to get a good handful of points as well as AJ Mackey and Rapid Mini on 11-lap old hard tyres finds himself P7. How's he conjured that out of nowhere?
And he's on hold hard tyres as well.
Strategy. Like I said, some of these drivers are wizards. You can't explain it. They just find themselves in positions. They find time. They find places. And Rapid Mini is one of those.
Rapid Mini Merlin, really, isn't he? Conjuring up.
Rapid Merlin. There you go.
Rapid Merlin, yeah. That could be a name change for him. Anyway, Guy Bowyer, though, on the back of him, he's on that fresh soft tyre. He will be hoping to make his way through, but Rapid Mini's got the DRS. All the while, there are now 9 laps to go as they cross the line. That Sim Racer, we're 3/4 of the way through the race, has got a gap to, I was going to say back to Basil, but that's now back to Rabin, because Rabin's made the move through on the reigning champion. Can Rabin be the one to close that gap into the 1 second?
They are working together. There was no defence put up there by Basil in the slightest. He was more than happy to let Rabin go through, burn a little bit more battery, trying to catch back up to the rear of this Mercedes car. But again, 1.3 seconds. They're going to have to work together in so much more of an effective manner. They can only catch up a certain amount. They've got a net equal around that second sector. All their time they're going to have to find is through trading a slipstream, burning a little bit of battery, as we saw that Sim Racer's red light start to flash, heading through turn 7, I want to say? Maybe turn 8. But the red light was flashing. It's flashing again. You can see it there. He's deployed his battery. And with 8 laps remaining, he's looking slightly vulnerable, you might have to say. I say tentatively.
He's not looking at ease, is he, really?
No.
At this stage of the race, because of Rabin. Look at him now, into the DRS, maybe. Just depends where he was at that detection point, of course.
Not quite.
Let's see, down towards turn 1. He is not going to have DRS at his advantage, but he's closing that gap just purely through his speed as Basil attaches himself to the back as well. But these three, unless there's a big crash, it's almost certain that these three are going to be sitting on the podium. We just don't know in what order.
Absolutely. You see Basil there really trying to push the car all the way to the bottom of turn 3 there, trying to minimise the distance he's running on track, just trying to gain any sort of advantage possible, because we can start seeing the red lights flashing for almost all of these drivers, apart from Rabin. Do I press the button? Do we have a look what his battery is?
Well, we don't actually have to press the button. If we just go on board...
Oh, I pressed the button. 29%. So, he's got a little bit more to play with. Doesn't even need to necessarily deploy it. The power will come through. Once those drivers hit that 10% threshold, they'll lose maximum speed. They'll lose a little bit of engine performance. The battery wants to go into reserve mode. It wants to start harvesting a little bit more than it's deploying per lap. That'll give Rabin the opportunity to get an overtake without even necessarily having to deploy the battery. But it might be a safe bet just to deploy a little bit more here and there, just to ensure you can get that move once you're ready to go for that overtake.
Yeah, 7 laps to go then here in Zandvoort in what has been an enthralling race right from the start. But it's that sim racer, Rabban and Basil, fighting it out for the win. Rabban, he really has been on a bit of a recovery mission in the last few laps after he didn't really have the best of stops, had a little bit of a mistake, had that collision, didn't he, up at turn 3, which did cause one of the safety cars, and he dropped back, but now he's right in the thick of it for the race win. AJ Mackey possibly searching after a top 4 here in his Williams car.
Yeah, certainly looks to be on pace, having a brilliant battle with Oliver Sequeira. But you've got to consider as well, there's a battle raging on behind him. If T-Bowyer and Rapid Mini can put their differences aside and maybe work together, if Rapid Mini just lays it off slightly, T-Bowyer might be able to catch back up to the rear of his pack and really try and challenge Oliver and AJ Mackey, because he managed to find his way from Rapid Mini, but Rapid Mini's somehow able to keep Delta pace with him, which is mightily impressive considering the age of his tyres.
Yeah, he's doing a very good job, isn't he, in that other Alpha Tauri car. Of course, his teammate picking up some good points at the moment, but we don't really know how many, of course, because AJ Mackey, Oliver, and T-Bowyer and his teammate actually are all in that penalty window. But we still don't even know if he might even get it removed or not. But either way, 6 to go then. The laps are counting down. We're really getting to the final stages here at Zandvoort. Not long left for these guys to make the move if they want it done before the end and we reach the checkered flag. But Basil, I think at the moment he's going to hope on the fact that the top 2 maybe come together.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you can see that red light still flash and he's still harvesting. You would maybe have to consider how much is he harvesting. Has he just decided to put his car into harvest mode? Does he want to reserve a lot more battery than these guys in front? Or, is he taking it a little bit easier? Or is he fully trying to push to hold onto the back of these guys and hope an incident occurs? Maybe through the likes of Tarzan, maybe one of them gets pushed wide slightly and he is able to nab a P2. But he's got to stay close, exactly as he is at the moment, to be in contention to try and grab any sort of errors which one of these drivers might make. We've seen him run it a little deep heading into turn 10. We've seen him taking it a bit too easy into turn 3 and end up, tapping the ball here and there. We've seen him run over the grass as well. There's a lot of different variables here for these drivers to really try and be able to pick apart from the other counterparts here. But you see that sim racer darting to the inside, doesn't want to give Rabban a slipstream, but Rabban is not interested in picking up any slipstream. He wants to stay behind at P2 at the minute.
Yeah, he's going to just wait, I think, maybe for the final lap, just so that he doesn't give that sim racer a chance with any kind of DRS when they make their way down towards turn 1 for what will be the final time. So maybe trying to give himself that advantage and not allow his rival to pick it up himself. But Basil, he has been really close through the middle sector, maybe having a little bit more wing on the car than we see on the other 2 drivers, which won't really help them at this stage of the race when you need that straight line speed, but it allows you to put the pressure on the top 3, then half a second between them, that you could throw a blanket over them as they make their way through this middle sector, and they really are starting to pull away. But it's just getting to the stage now where it's tactical. You've got the DRS, you've got the ERS, you've just got to work out when and where to use it.
I'm suspecting a little game of DRS chicken. I'm not sure what tells me that, but I can feel it coming.
I mean, it's possible, but it's difficult, isn't it? Because of where that DRS is located.
Yes.
Because, of course, it's right on the exit of that stadium section. We'll have to see if anybody uses it. But is Rabban going for the lead here? Yes, he is. Inside line. He's not really waiting anymore. He's going to go for the move for the lead. And we have 4 laps to go here at Zandvoort, and Rabban hits the front once again.
And you've got to consider as well, if we had the likes of Rapid Daz, of Scorenzi still in this battle, could we be seeing a 5 or 6 wide battle appear for the lead of this race? All of them jockeying for the DRS, all of them trying to harvest a little bit more battery. How much more differently could this have gone? But I'm sure these front 3 do not care in the slightest about what's happened during this race, because all they're focused on is what order the podium's going to be given out. And so far, you gotta think that Sim Racer might be in a favourable seat being in P2. He'll have the DRS, he'll have the slipstream, but the question is, will he have the ERS to play with as well?
We'll have to wait and see, because, well, we don't have to wait long, do we, really? Because we've only got 3 more laps of this race to go. About 4 minutes worth of racing action on the sand dunes in the Netherlands. But can that sim racer pull it back to take the win and extend his championship lead further? Or will Rabban just chip away that little bit at that sim racer's points tally at this stage of the season? Basil wouldn't mind picking up a win if he can find his way through. But look at that sim racer towards turn 1. Not going to make the move. Sitting in behind. He's waiting. Got to be careful, though, because if he waits takes too long, Basil will take advantage.
Absolutely, and the last thing you want is getting a car in third place, a double slipstream, so he can really get a bit of overspeed going, burn a bit of battery as well, and you could find him flying past for both of you down the inside, heading heading into Tarzan. And you know, it's not seeming impossible, especially with the pace that Sim Racer has for his middle section. You've got to think as well, he's got slightly higher wings, his tyres might be in a better condition coming off of a banked corner at turn 13. If he's able to get the traction there, and he's able to get a double slipstream, burn a bit of battery, he could very easily see himself flying past into the lead of this race. It's not over yet, Darragh. It sounds stupid to say, but I feel like we've still got an awful lot of battling left to go.
Yeah, but look at this, down in towards the stadium section. It's so close, isn't it? As they get onto the stoppers. It's getting so tense, really, because there's 2 laps to go. Does that Sim Racer go for the lead now and try and defend it with a lap to go with the DRS that Rabin will surely have? Or does he wait, back himself to be this close next time around and go for it in the final lap? I think his hand's going to be forced here because Basil is arriving on the scene. Basil is in P3. No, he's not. He's going to lead into the turn 1. What a move from Basil. He's taken the inside line, but he's gone deep. He's gone very deep, and through comes that Sim Racer. Rabin has gone from first to third. Basil took the lead. Then that Sim Racer takes the lead. They've all had it in the last 15 seconds.
Yeah, and Rabin's being held up there by Basil. He wanted to get the line fleshed out through turn 3, but again, Basil's car placement was immaculate on the inside, not allowing Rabin to get through. And now it's created a little bit of a buffer where Rabin is going to have to start burning the battery through this middle sector to hold on to the back of Basil, because we know Basil's got that higher wing, but he is very much low on ERS. We saw on the onboard he was hovering around the 4% mark, so he's not got much left to play with. But that has given that Sim Racer a fantastic opportunity to be able to run off with this race after the little bit of contact they had coming out of Tarzan. So, Rabin is in a position now. Will he be able to climb it back up into P2, or will he be forced to sit and watch from P3? Because I feel like the race might be out of his hands at this moment.
Yeah, P3 is not where you want to be going on to the final lap, but look at the gap that Sim Racer has pulled here on Basil as they run through the final corner. The Aston Martin driver is going to have the DRS, but he's got no ERS. And here comes Rabin. He's in defense mode, not attack mode, and that's not what you want on the final lap of the race. Here comes Rabin around the outside. Can Basil defend, or can Rabin take it? Rabin onto the gravel, and he won't be able to make this move at all. As AJ Mackey and Eric are fighting out into turn 1. AJ Mackey wants to make sure he gets that position on track and not wait for the stewards to decide anything, but they fight away. That Sim Racer has had no fighting to do on this final lap. He still leads, half a lap to go.
Yes, he's absolutely cruising out in front right now, isn't he? All he's got to do is keep it within track limits, take it easy, not force yourself into an error. It's so easy to do around Zandvoort, given the technicalities of the corners, the cambers as well. We see him there having a little squirm on the throttle. He's just got to take it easy. He's got 8 attempts. He doesn't have a penalty. He's just got to bring that Merc home to be able to pick up a win and extend his championship gap here once again at PRL. But you've got to consider Basil, Rabin, both of them are going to be absolutely pushing to the limits. Hopefully there's going to be no accident through turn 12 or 13 here, given how hard we're going to be pushing.
Yeah, but let's see, Eric and AJ Mackey, they're still fighting it out, but as they do, that Sim Racer, he took the lead on the penultimate lap, and he wins here in Zandvoort. He extends the championship lead just that little bit more. Here comes Oliver. He's overtaken both of them. How's that happened? The Red Bull's going to pick up P4 here across the line. Eric's going to drop down the order with that time penalty, but we don't really know what happened with that. He's left immediately, which means it's going to be a little bit more difficult for people to work out where he actually did finish. But either way, Oliver picks up P4. A very valiant effort from the man in the Red Bull. But that's Sim Racer. Fantastic drive from him. Rabin's going to be gutted, but Basil, he'll probably settle for P2, I'd have thought.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic all round for these drivers. Basil gets himself on the podium. This is where he can kickstart. This is where he can carry the momentum through to the next races on the calendar, to the likes of Abu Dhabi as well. This is where he can start building from. He knows it's capable. He was up there fighting with the very best, given potentially he might have had one of the, less effective strategies and setups for really trying to get those moves done, but he was able to get there. He was able to hold it with these guys despite not having low enough wings to make the overtakes. He was still there. That's surely got to give him confidence moving forward. But as you mentioned, that Sim Racer, once again, showing why he is that Sim Racer. Fantastic drive.
Yeah, and the Mercedes driver, I'm sure, will be absolutely delighted to just pull a little bit further away in that championship. as we're about to see him dancing around on the podium. But yeah, fantastic drive, fantastic race overall here at Zandvoort. We can see him on the podium, his fellow podium sitters of Basil and Rabin alongside him. But really, that was a fantastic drive. We'll go through the race results very, very shortly. But overall, I think, you could say it's fully deserved. I mean, on that penultimate lap, we saw all three of those drivers hold the lead at one point or another. But that sim racer kept us on track.
Yes, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? Truly, from the start to the very end, they were all fighting. They all understood what sort of roles they had to play in a race. And it all together went very well. Very entertaining overall. But we do have the final orders. Darragh, would you care to run us through them?
Yeah, here we go. Then that sim racer, fastest lap as well, along with his win. A 10.2 gives him that extra point. Basil in second, Rabin in third. Then Oliver, very valiant drive for P4. It's going to be P5 for Mackie, P6 for Rapid Mini, and P7 for D Bowyer. I believe Eric would be P8 if that penalty stands. Of course, the game has a little bit of an issue if you leave after you've finished, but not everybody has, so I think he'll be P8. Christine was 9th, Alfredo in 10th, with Banana 11th. Tintoretto and Finbop 12th and 13th. They round out the order with Daz, Connor, Oliver James and Scorenzi not seeing the flag. Scorenzi, he won't be too pleased, I don't think, at that. A few points missed from McLaren as well. But overall, an incredibly exciting race, and I'm excited to hear some of the drivers' opinions on that one.
Absolutely. Hopefully we'll be able to get a couple of these drivers in for a quick interview to kind of ask how they found the race, what other sort of complications arose. Let's have a little look.
You see two of them in there.
I do absolutely. Should we move over there, Darragh?
Over then.
Absolutely.
Fucking hell, mate. Yo, you know what? I'll give it to you, man. You're intelligent. You're really intelligent.
Hello. How are we doing?
Oh,
well. I mean,
sorry, mate.
That must have been a fun one to watch.
Talk about a race there, guys. Honestly, I mean, those last couple of laps. Do you have your heart rate on hand? Are you okay? Do you want medical emergency?
Mate, I've got a towel under me right now. I'm sweating more than anything. I made a mistake of wearing a hoodie, and I'm paying the price for it. But what a race! What a race!
My heart rate's racing more from watching this Arsenal game. I can't lie.
I was going to ask actually, Alex, of course, Alex, that's him racer.
Yeah.
In the end, I mean, that penultimate lap where we saw you go for the lead, I mean, you guys were 3 wide down towards the opening corner. I mean, that must have been a bit of a stressful moment, not knowing if you were going to come into contact.
Oh, it really was. It really was. Thing is, I knew what game Rabin was playing from like lap 30, like lap 29, no, lap 30 to like 32, 33. So for like 4 or 5 laps, he was trailing behind me, and I knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to like recharge his ERS for an attack down the final straight on lap 35, and then lap 35 start lap 36. And then he pulled ahead of me for some reason, which I was really confused about. So I decided to do the same with him, but rather than overtaking, going towards like into the 35th lap, I lifted my pedal and my foot off my accelerator to make it 3 wide, because I knew if I backed off a little bit earlier, then Basil would. Basil was gonna overextend the corner, which he did. And I knew that Rabin was going to break a little bit earlier, being on the outside of the corner. So I pretty much had the advantage. And then them two had a little bit of scrap, and I just kind of tried to get away. Just tried to get away. My turn 3 though, Basil's turn 3 was pretty much perfect.
I mean, and Basil yourself, I mean, because like Alex just said there, you were on the inside, you were likely to go wide down at turn 1. I mean that must have been a scary moment, because of course you were right up against the wall. You didn't really know exactly where you wanted to brake, and for a split second you had that lead, but then it just drifted wide, didn't it?
Yeah, I had a pretty crazy overspeed. The plan was to take the lead and then getting back on the final lap, or leading to the final lap, but I kind of overshot my braking point. And yeah, but Alex played it really smart. kind of knew his game plan, kind of knew both of their game plans. I was just trying to stay back and then get them when they least expect it. But, it was a lot of fun today, really tense all the way through.
And of course, you missed the opening. Sorry, Josh. I was just saying you missed the opening couple of rounds. So is this important for you to really try and build as many points up as you can over these? Because it's only a short season, you don't have that long to try and recover.
Yeah, I mean, I'm defending champ, but oh come on, David Ryder, you're my man. I'm sorry. Defending champ. I missed the first 2 races because I went on holiday. But I'm just trying to have fun, enjoy the races. We got some really fast drivers in this division, so it's always fun. It was always fun when we're on track.
Absolutely. So we'll start with that sim racer, of course, yourself, Alex, first. How do you feel like you're going to be able to carry this momentum into next week, which of course is Austria? Right. Very interesting. Well, Basil, we'll start with you then. How are you going to be able to carry this momentum through over to...
I didn't realise my mic was muted. I really do apologise.
Okay, there we go. Right.
I really do apologise. I was talking, actually, gave a full explanation. My apologies. So, Austria's not a strong suit of mine. I'm not too sure what it is about the track. It's, for me, the wings, like, you run a high downforce, you're not quick enough in the straights. You run the low downforce, and you're not quick enough in the corners. You try and run a mix of both, and you're crap everywhere. And I just can't find that sweet spot for me. But we've got a week. I've got a week to test out, to try different things, and hopefully improve and give Basil and Scorenzi and Rayburn and Eric and all the other guys in this division, because they're all fantastic drivers. I don't put anything past any of them, and I just hope again. It's another great showing.
Absolutely. Basil, how are you looking to try and carry yourself forward after this podium around Austria? Is it a favourite track for yourself?
Yeah, I do enjoy the track quite a bit. I haven't raced there in a while, but yeah, I mean, all I need to work on is my quali pace. Over one lap, I'm just not that quick. I mean, obviously, not as quick as these guys, but I think it's in the race pace where I come alive, and you see me in like top 3, top 4 positions. But I need to work on my quality pace, and potentially I could be there for a win, hopefully.
It'd be great to see you up there, of course, as the reigning champion. It'd be great to see you fighting at the front for the wins in the championships once again. But thanks for both of you for joining in for an interview. It's always nice when we see you guys hop in. It makes our life a little bit easier as well, so thank you very much. PRL will be back tomorrow night for Tier 2. Of course, that'll be 10 o'clock UK time, so 5 o'clock Eastern time in the US. But I'm looking forward to it. Josh, I'm sure you're looking forward to it as well, because after the race this evening, anything can happen tomorrow night in Tier 2. But make sure you join us then. We'll see you in 24 hours or so when we return to Zandvoort in PRL, because we've got a fantastic race